Hey everybody, this is Townsend. I'm a singer, songwriter, musician, and mental health advocate, and I started the You're Not Alone project and podcast to help educate, spread awareness, and simply help you feel a little less alone, no matter what you're going through. Thank you so much for tuning in to Season 2 of You're Not Alone with Townsend. Be sure to click the follow button and share these stories. You can also watch the interviews on our YouTube under Townsendtmusic. You can also keep up with the journey if you follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Townsendtmusic. Every like, follow, and share helps us continue to change lives. What is up, everybody? This is Townsend. I'm so excited about this episode. I think I say that every episode, but truly, the guests that I have on here are so good, so inspirational, and it just means so much that they've taken time out of their day to share their story with us. And this is one of my buddies. So Blake and I have known each other for quite a while. He got to sharing his story with me a couple of years ago, and I remember saying, I'm going to start a podcast, and I want you to be on it. And he's like, done, deal. And here we are like a year or two later, finally at this point. And it's just so cool seeing both of us grow and like become successful at our passions. And it's just really neat. So thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me, Townsend. I
Yeah.
am so excited for your podcast, and it's been awesome to see you grow.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so mutual, man. So this guy is just a killer musician, an awesome friend. It's just been really cool. So we're just gonna go ahead and hop into it. So who the heck is Blake? I know a lot of people are like, I know that name or that I know that background. How would they know you?
Well, my name is Blake Goodwin. I live here in Conway, Arkansas. I own Fretmonkey Records, which is a recording studio here based in Conway. I am a guitar player that is primarily known for fingerstyle guitar. I do a lot of traveling and videos and things like that for fingerstyle acoustic guitar, as well as I'm a producer here at the studio.
Yeah, he makes some killer tracks. He's actually done some of my tracks. If you like music, check out Townsend on any streaming services or Blake as well. He's actually done a couple of my records. One of them was, um, gosh, I can't even think of the name of the song that you did for me.
Oh, I can't remember either.
I know, but it's on
Well,
there
we've
and
done
it's
some covers.
amazing.
We've done a couple
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
for
was
sure.
covers, and then we've done acoustic covers of my song. It's just
Yeah.
really cool. But this guy's a stellar guitar player and such a cool, just a cool story. But most people know you as the successful musician or the successful producer, but it hasn't always been that way. Like I
Nope.
said, a couple of years ago, you told me about your journey through addiction. And that's something that doing this podcast seems to be incredibly relevant. It seems like a lot of people deal with addiction. So
Yeah,
we'll
I believe
just
that musicians uh, primarily are one of the biggest ones that can be led into addiction just because of like the scene and crowd, or at least growing up in my time. Definitely for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like you can blame it on a bunch of different things, but one, the gigs, you're out late. Two, you've always
Yep.
got to be on your best game. You got to fake a smile. You've got to have your burdens plus everybody else's. I feel like everybody wants to tell you their stories. You got to have a great time, and every night's got to be the best of the night. So I feel like a lot of people I know take uppers to make them that hyped and that good, and then you get addicted, and it just goes on and
Yeah,
on and on.
that and constant playing in like a bar scene. I have several family members I've had deal with this issue, as well as friends that are constantly gigging, 3 to 4 nights a week, right? And they're constantly in a bar. They're with their friends, and it becomes this natural, reoccurring thing every week where you're getting free drinks. You're kind of in a social pressure, type of deal, and next thing it can lead to many other things. It might just be alcohol, could, obviously tilt to something else, but it is something that I've seen way more often than I wish I had.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we went two different routes. I've heard of both of them. Like the
Yeah.
one, like I said, just you've got to keep your attitude on point, and that gets to be a big burden to carry. So I've heard of
Yep.
people doing the drug part of addiction and then the
Oh, yeah.
drinking, of course. Yeah. Like you said, I literally play in a bar, I bet 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
So if you don't have like some crazy dedication and strong will, it's easy to give into that. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and hop into your story. So let's tell people kind of when addiction started out for you, like what that looked like. I want to personally thank you for taking the time to listen to these conversations. It truly means so much. We've changed so many lives for the better, and we want to continue doing so throughout 2023. This project is made possible by sponsors and patrons. So if you'd like to help keep the You're Not Alone project going and hearing these amazing stories, we would love for you to join the family at patreon.com/TownsendTmusic. Just for signing up, you'll get free merch, discounts, and behind the scenes patron only footage. Not only of my music, but of each episode. That's right, so each guest on every episode answers a few more questions that only patrons will be able to watch and listen to. So head on over to patreon.com/TownsendTmusic and let's continue changing lives.
So addiction and alcoholism, all of that started really from a really early age. And that's because of just a certain type of childhood events that happened, which led me moving to Conway, where I currently live. And when I was growing up until age 11, I had a huge family with extended family, cousins, all that type of deal. That being said, I was very well loved as a kid, right? Obviously, there were some issues that happened with dad going through a divorce, my mom going through a divorce with their current husband and wife, which led me to moving here where I felt very isolated. I didn't know anybody right off the bat. Uh, as I reflect back, I didn't realize I was being like kind of bullied when I first got here, but that actually kind of happened to me and I felt very isolated. My mom went to school on top of working a full-time job, and my stepdad at the time worked about 13, 14-hour shifts every day. So I just didn't really have anybody. Being 12 years old, just really in like reflecting that I just lost everything. And I think that really internalized, I felt like I wasn't good enough and I just didn't have the attention I felt like probably wanted at that age.
Sure.
So meeting my first few friends in high school, we all met actually through church, hilariously enough, that we were all really close. We played in a worship band, and then one friend just snowballed and the rest of us followed because we're all really
Wow.
close. And next thing I know, we're all, at that age, 13, 14, started doing marijuana,
Yeah.
and that was like something that I just instantly fell like in love with because I was like, I didn't have to feel like I didn't have to feel like me. I didn't have to have this anxiety. I didn't have to have this worry. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel completely different. I don't, have all this scared or fear that I feel like I was just growing up with. From there, with the same crowd and that just kind of escalating with more and more friends that were doing those type of that stuff in the circle, I finally got introduced to Adderall, which was a huge one for me. That drug and myself really clicked. Let's just say that,
Yeah.
along with pain pills. Those things became really prevalent in my life. At the same time, I really focused on guitar, and I loved the way uh, creating music while under the influence affected me. I just felt like it was another step of the high on top of drugs. It was like I was able to do these things that I felt like I could not do sober. So when I got into the band scene around like 16, 17, I started a band which was actually really successful for that age. We were getting picked up from one of our radio stations here. We were in the recording studio recording an album, that type of things. And at the same time, my drug addiction started getting harder and harder. I was at 17, I was playing in a band with guys that were 23, 25, and like 26,
Yeah.
so I was definitely easily influenced by people that I thought were wiser than me,
Heck yeah,
had
they're
more
cool.
experience, had been in more bands,
Yeah.
that really just changed my whole world, and the drugs kept getting harder, to, worse pain pills and things like that. So the next thing I know, in my journey, and we'll just kind of keep it in the music area at this point, is that the band started deteriorating because we were all broke because we were just living off of all the money we would make is trying to blow it on drugs, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
next thing we know, we're selling our gear, we're fighting with each other, we're stealing from each other, all these horrible things, and the band came to an end, obviously,
Sure.
and I didn't know what to do with my life at that point. So for the next few years, I took every job I can possibly find. because I didn't know, I didn't ever believe that I could be anything further than like what I thought I could be. And that was like, oh, I was going to be a Terminix man. I got my CDL, started driving trucks. I went and worked at a prison. I've worked every pizza place in the world, and I felt so depressed because I was like, I'm not doing what I love is music, but I just kept re-engaging back into drugs, and things like that. And so I just had this like endless cycle of just feeding myself that I wasn't good enough, that everybody's already uh, disappointed in me from being an addict, alcoholic. I can't keep a job more than like 6 months, and then I just like failed a drug test or whatever would happen. And I mean, I was just in complete like disarray and just could not keep my life together.
Yeah. Man,
Yeah.
that's a lot. Goodness gracious. It ended up like you were talking about, the drugs just got harder and harder. Something I have found, I've interviewed a lot of people. Again, it seems to be incredibly prevalent. I don't know if it's more around more or we just talk about it more. I haven't decided which one. I don't really know. But it's come to this conclusion, and I'm really curious your input. So half of the people have told me that you cannot force anyone to do rehab. You can't do it. And then half of the people have said, because someone forced me to do rehab, I got better.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
an
So kind
interesting
of
perspective.
wild, right?
I have a really good perspective on people trying to get sober and
Yeah.
getting sober.
Right.
Mine's a little bit more brutal,
Yeah. Give it to us. Let's do
because
it.
I've been into 3 facilities, and I've known people that have been to 18, 20 facilities, right?
Absolutely.
What I learned from my own personal experience in getting sober was I had exhausted all options. Somebody told me that, like, hey, you can't, oh, I'm free from drugs, but I can still drink alcohol, that type of deal,
Yeah.
right? Like I'd always try to like think that I could always get away with something, or maybe I can just smoke weed or whatever, and I won't do pills. And I exhausted every single one of those options that kept letting me back into relapse, which made my relapse even worse because I already hated myself so much that I just let everybody down, including myself. Um, and so what I learned out of all of it was, are you ready to be sober? Like that was the
Yeah.
number one thing. Is like, are you done? Because you like somebody told me this because like, oh, you hit rock bottom. No, you haven't. You can
Yeah.
still keep digging. You
Golly.
can still keep digging because you can either end up dead, in jail, or an institution.
Yeah.
One of 3 places that's going to happen to you. And if the worst thing that can actually happen to you is if you just live, because then you're
Yeah.
just going to cause chaos on every single person, including yourself. And
Mm.
when somebody really put that into perspective to me, it really made me realize that, oh my gosh, like this is it. This is all I have. And even when I was told that was still not enough. It was
Yeah.
not enough for me to stay sober. The last time I went to treatment, I mean, I was just like, tail between my legs. And the lady said, you ain't getting another chance. You're gonna have to go to a meeting. You're gonna be on the streets. Like
Wow.
you understand you're spoiled for getting another chance at rehab. And that really, like, I was like, oh God, like this is it. And they're like, your insurance runs out next year. You're not gonna be able to come back. And I was so tired and so exhausted from living that life that I just said, I'll do whatever you need me to do. And that's exactly what they look for in a treatment or a program. They ask you, are you willing to go all the way and follow every single step that we recommend? And I was at the time, and it was hard work. So when I talk to people and people ask me, oh, I want to get sober, things like that, I'm like, I want you to get sober too, but are you really ready? Are you able to cut this relationship? Are you ready to take that step to get in a program and actually and do the work? And I mean, I think that's just the most brutal way of saying it, because I have so many friends that are, some of them are still sober and they did the right thing by doing the right steps. And then I have some that are dead and some that are
Yeah.
relapsed, you
Yeah.
know? And
Sadly. Yeah.
yeah, sadly. And that's just it's the brutal reality
Yeah.
that is an addiction and alcoholism.
Man, you got some brutal friends, but I kind of like it. That lady. She said, "This is it. This is it." Spoiled
Oh, I'll
brat.
never forget the way she said that. I mean, it was just still like burned to like imaged
Yeah.
into my brain, and my mom
She's
shaking her head like, "Yeah, you're done."
yeah,
You
but I
know?
love she made such a good point. Like, you're spoiled for being
Yeah,
here again. Like that
yeah,
rang out to me because it's like How spoiled are we? Like, you
Mhm.
had a chance not only to go once, not only to go twice, but 3 times. Some
Three
people, like
times.
you said, I know people that have been like 8 times, and you
Yep.
just don't realize how blessed you truly are. So, has addiction always played a role in your life? Like, has that always been a personality trait of yours? Did it run in
Yeah,
your
it stems
family?
it stems into other things in my
Yeah.
life. Like, coming back to like asking who Blake is, right? So I
Yeah.
told you what I do, and I told you, you know, trying to sum up who I am, but who I really am is a person of adventure, passionate, the things that make me who I am as a dreamer, right? I'm always chasing that next step and elevating my life, and that is such a big part of me. I filled that area of my life with drugs and alcohol. My
Sure.
family members also have the same intensity as myself, right? And that shows in other areas where they've had, had addictions to nicotine, or some of them alcohol, but they might be brilliant people. But those aspects I've seen shown up in their life as well as mine. So now that I'm sober, music, business, those type of things, um, sometimes it's even getting new guitar gear or synthesizers.
We're
I get
all a
addicted
little
really fast,
addicted.
and yeah, and I have to like, hey, calm down, because I chase that what makes me feel good, right?
Sure.
And I've learned a lot of steps to calm that side of myself down, because not only did that apply into my drug and alcoholism addiction, but it has to apply into all aspects of my life, which is a balance, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, your mom is an incredibly intense person, but she's like the smartest
Yeah,
person I know. She's always got 77 projects going at one time. And I'm
I
like,
know.
God, woman, I don't know how you do it. Um, yeah, so what was the moment? And I guess you might have just said it, but the moment that you accepted that you were ready and you needed to make that change, was it when you went and that woman was like, boy, you spoiled? Or was there a
Yeah,
moment between,
that was, I mean, there was accumulation of all the things. I
yeah,
had went to the same rehab facility,
yeah.
and at this point, at the third time, they all knew me.
Yeah, they're like, "Welcome back."
I had a majority of these counselors, and this place is brutal. Like, when
Yeah.
I say this is not like any rehab I've ever seen, I mean, it is. They'll put you in a circle in front of 90 people and call you out on everything that you've ever did, and people are going to be honest and tear you down so they can build you back up, right?
Sure.
That just gives you a context of what it is, which is exactly what I needed, and a lot of those people needed. And at the first, it seemed scary. Um,
Yeah, that
that
kinda
moment really
terrifies me.
came
I would
down.
cry.
Oh God,
I
everybody
would bawl
cried.
my eyes out.
I'm sitting there freaking out. Don't call me.
Please don't,
Like,
please don't
but
call me.
it was such a real thing, because all these lessons that all these counselors have either gone through that same facility or have been sober, for years and gotten their counseling license. And a lot of them had a brutal perspectives because they have gone through it themselves, which you respected them because hey, you can relate with them. They've gone through it. And there was a just accumulation of things they had either said to me that I thought was just like, oh man, like that is so true in my life. And at the end of it all, I'd exhausted everything. Like, I'd done everything they told me not to do, like date a relationship in the first year or date someone in the first year of being sober, at least can lead to a relapse, or if you try to go drink or, whatever, being dishonest, those type of things. I did every one of them. And at the very end, I was tired. I mean, is not no pretty. It's not a wow story, because I mean, you would think that, hey, I've been hospitalized, almost dead, would be the story that hey, um, that's what's going to get you sober. No, I went back and relapsed.
Yeah.
It was just like I was done. I mean, I'll never forget. Like, I was just my family were gone uh outside of Christmas, and I was supposed to go down to my dad's to Texas and go see him. And I was so high from drugs for like 3 days straight. And then I slept through Christmas, and I woke up and I was all
Wow.
by myself. And
Oh,
I remember how horrible I felt, because everybody worried about me, didn't know where I was.
wow.
And I had ran out of all money. I ran out of every single thing. I had a friend came in while that whole thing and stole everything out of the house.
Oh gosh.
And I was just like, this this is it, because I already felt guilty for relapsing the last time. And the last time I did pretty well. I had like 7 months of recovery at the time.
Wow.
And and I did really well. And so when I relapsed, it was just like so heartbreaking. And I was just like, I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to disappoint my family. And my family were like, hey, we're either you go back to rehab or go, and
Yeah.
and the option that I even got to go back was amazing. But when I went in there, I did everything they told me to do. I worked at a lumber yard that they owned, worked 6 days a week, went to every AA meeting, got a sponsor, and I just listened to what they said.
Yeah.
And, you know, nobody talked to me the entire
Yeah.
year. Nobody wanted anything to do
Wow.
with me except for, that program. And it's exactly what I needed at the time was to
Wow.
grow up and be a big boy.
Grow up, be a bit, put your
That's
birthdays on them.
that's right.
Man, I can only imagine your mental health. I think you made a really good point talking about in those moments. And I don't think people give that enough credit. So in those moments where, I mean, you're doing good and you get all those relationships back and then you relapse.
Mm.
I mean, your mental health in that moment of you're disappointed in yourself. You've let everybody else down, but you've
Oh,
also let
it's awful.
yourself down.
The second relapse I had coming out of the facility, I was actually doing great. I was working this job, and it was the first time I've ever had a job come out. And like when I was leaving the job, the owner was in tears, and he was like, "You've
Wow.
been one of the best workers, right?"
Oh,
I had relapsed because I had an ear infection,
oh
and
no.
I was just hurting so bad that when they wrote me the script, I just took the hydrocodones, and I
Yeah.
felt so guilty about it. And
Oh
I hid it from my
no.
sober house, and went to a bar and just started drinking.
Oh
And I
no.
just cried and drove all the way back to Arkansas and just started my, reign of hell,
Yeah.
on
Wow.
my family's life again. And it was a very short relapse, which, like I said, went to the Christmas thing. And
Yeah.
finally, when I was just like, man, I'm done. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but
The
yeah, it's
stories.
mental health. Whew,
Oh,
yeah,
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Like there are days where everyone has those days where you're just like, oh, it's too much. I'm a disappointment.
yeah,
Like maybe I could be better. But imagining that. And then you put like a substance abuse on top of that, which really messes with your mind and can make it exaggerated. Man, that's just such a dark place. And I feel like
yep,
people don't really take that into consideration.
oh yeah.
So looking back on that today, the Blake you are now, like what does self-care look like for you now? What does mental health care look like for you now?
Yeah. So self-care and mental health and all of that is super important to me, which a lot of my foundation is still based in the 12-step program of AA. A lot of those principles to me um, are just guides to my life, which is like taking a daily inventory of my life. I feel
Yeah.
like it's still one that I'm really on because how I talk and treat people, um, sometimes I have to reflect like, how am I feeling? And if somebody got upset or maybe I said something, it's just being completely honest with myself and honest with like, communicating with others, to really just take like a moral inventory of myself and do the right thing by, sweeping my side of the street clean, just, whether it's making amends or doing something for somebody, or for myself, those type of things. I tend, if as long as I keep those daily things up, like my life feels pretty good. Like I feel,
Yeah.
you know, I'm constantly just trying to better improve my life, as well as like creating healthy boundaries, healthy space, things like that. I feel like is another important thing because, you know, what everybody gets so caught up is like in the world of addiction of trying to get sober, but nobody really ever talks about what it's like to be sober.
Yeah.
And once all those masks are completely just taken away from you, this is the hardest part, I feel like, is that, hey, like I'm having to deal with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't like me. And that's the reason why I started doing these substance.
Yeah.
So doing these steps that I talked about, as like going to therapy, making amends, those type of things are things that help you improve. And the more you live that life, the more your brain's rewired to think
Yeah.
that way. And I just celebrated 9 years of recovery. And I can honestly say, when I talk about, that past of mine, it doesn't even feel like the same person. Like it just doesn't seem real that all happened because my life is so radically changed.
Yeah.
through my sobriety, I have gone through so much just turmoil as well. I've had
Yeah,
best friends die. I've gone through a divorce. Things like that. Things that could easily lead back to a relapse or just a really
absolutely.
horrible way of life. Or in a mental way or emotional way. But I have the right steps and I've taken the precautions to set myself up by doing daily things and having communications and being willing to go back to therapy or go to an AA meeting if I need to,
Yeah,
not necessarily because I think about like relapsing, but just maybe I just need the support and be
yeah,
around somebody to hear some wisdom.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I was gonna ask, do you still go to meet it? Is that something like even 9 years out, do you stop by meetings still?
Every once in a while I like to go.
Yeah,
I think it's good to ground yourself. Like it's not, AA like was has always been a huge part of my life, and I'm so grateful for it. Right. In my life, I feel like, if there's an opportunity that I can help and give back, I will gladly go to an AA meeting.
yeah,
Or if I just, I need to surround myself. But my life is not always involved in AA, but I strongly, strongly am like the biggest believer in that program. I just have such a great support system, plus my own beliefs and, with God and my higher power, all those type of things. I've surrounded myself with a lot of positivity, and when things get out of handle, I know where to go. I have an AA meeting. I have, friends that are really good for me, those type of things. So,
yeah,
I always highly suggest if you're going to recovery, like you got to do it with, a program,
yeah,
and whatever that might be, it could be NAAA. Um, you need that accountability from that group to call you on your BS. As
yeah.
such a huge thing.
As scary as it is.
It
I'm
is.
like, I'm so shy and like I feel like if I was in a room and people call me out about, okay, I'm done. I'll never do it again. Oh my God. I don't even know what I did, but I'm done.
You know
Like I
what?
need
That
to
little
sit down.
fear, though, I mean, it really can change you because you'll be so
Yeah,
scared. But then what happens from that is you'll react in a different way, or something else will come up that you might have never noticed. And somebody
that's right.
calls you on something. And it doesn't mean that they're being hostile or mean or anything like that, but at least points out something to you and you're aware of it from that moment and how you deal
Absolutely.
with it.
I have to verbalize for the people that don't know you. It's crazy to me, like meeting you a handful of years ago and knowing that that's your past is wild to me because you're
Yeah.
like this just big old sensitive teddy bear and like we always have great talks. I feel like we check on each other and you're just always there and you're dependable. And so to think about that not always being you is really wild to me. So I'm kind of like you, like I can't even imagine that Blake from back then.
It's weird. It really
Yeah,
is,
you're like one of the best guys I know. So to
Oh,
think about
thanks.
you, yeah, to think about you doing that, I'm like,
You're not too shabby
no,
yourself, Townsend.
no, no, thanks.
Thanks.
Not Blake. No, not Blake. No way. He
Not
would
me.
never. Yeah. So what? Okay, like I said, this is, I would say, the number one topic that I get people reaching out about. So what advice would you have for those people that are in the process of struggling with addiction? Like they're in that moment of, dude, I don't know where to go, what to do. What advice would you have?
Well, the advice I would give is similar to sum up everything I have said, and that is being willing and able to follow, whether it's a sponsor, a program, rehab center, any of those things, and take that step to make that action a reality for your life.
Yeah,
And
I
that
like that.
is to follow every single thing that they tell you without a doubt, whether it's hard, because it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
You know, uh, it's hard, but it beats the alternative of death, prison, and mental institutions.
Man,
You
you are
know,
not wrong. Yeah, yeah. What advice do you have for loved ones of people struggling? Like this is one I can't imagine. So like your
this
mom.
is the one I want to
Yeah,
give, and
yeah,
it's because of the perspective of my family, right,
yeah,
who's had to deal with it for years. The number one thing I can advise a loved one that somebody has of son, daughter, whatever, family member in addiction, stop enabling them. The
yeah.
number one thing I will beg you and plead for you is to not enable them. You need to be able to walk away, get yourself a therapist, a group, an Al-Anon group, whatever that might be. If you don't know what Al-Anon is, it's a support group for people that's in addiction and recovery. Um, and they will help and guide you to be strong enough. Because if you continue to enable your family member, and whether that's giving them an extra $20 or setting up another chance or whatever it is, stop. Because the moment my family stopped and told me no and meant it and stood by it, a whole year they never came and talked to me, never called me, nothing, was the moment I grew up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're 50, 60 years old. I've seen it all ages. It does not matter, because at the time I was 24 and I had seen people that were in their 80s. And
Oh,
I don't want to be
absolutely.
that guy. I don't want to be that guy in my 80s. I wanted to get it then and there,
Yeah.
So the moment you stop enabling, it's going to be hard. It's going to hurt. And they're going to drive you crazy. Surround yourself with that group.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So enabling, you gave a couple of examples, but I think it's hard to know what's enabling and what's not. So like throwing them money when they need it, like
Almost anything. I
yeah,
think personally, I think complete cut of contact is the best
yeah,
way.
yeah,
And unfortunately, as hurtful as it is, but an addict and alcoholic are the masters of manipulation,
yeah,
masters of it, And I mean, that's how they scheme their entire life. They have to
right,
do it constantly, 100% all the time, whether it's at a job, so they can keep their job, get their next fix, their relationship to keep, they're constantly having to manipulate and just create turmoil, really, personally.
yeah,
So I think usually I would suggest, like, stop that contact. Either this
right,
is my boundary, I'm done with it, and that's it. It's
yeah.
hard. It's easier to say,
Oh,
as I'm saying it now.
absolutely.
But the moment my family had, here's the, alternative. They had wasted thousands of dollars probably on me, oh, we want you to get sober, we're going to buy you this, or
Yeah,
here's this opportunity and go work, I'm going to get you set up with this other job so maybe you won't do drugs, or whatever it is, right? That never works.
yeah,
The person that wants to be sober has to be in complete desperation to be
yeah,
sober.
yeah.
That is my personal experience. I'm sure people will have all kinds of different
Oh,
opinions and,
absolutely.
and and things like that. But I've seen the people that stay sober and not been sober, and the people that really work this thing are the ones that are still sober,
Yeah,
and have a really happy life. I still got great friends
I love
from
that.
there, and their families are happy to have them back as well,
Oh,
you know.
absolutely. They never want to push you away. That's just what it's called. I can't imagine your mom. She loves you so much. I can't
Ugh,
imagine that
she
moment
was
when
mad.
oh yeah, I bet.
She was real mad at me, but
I can't
thank God
imagine
she was
how
able to
hard
get the
it
strength,
was.
to do
Yeah.
that. I needed
Yeah.
that in my life. Changed
Yeah.
me for the best.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. That helps a lot for sure. Thank you so much for joining us, Blake. It has been a pleasure. I know that story is hard and it's vulnerable, but I have no doubt that lives will be changed from hearing it. So thank you so, so much.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on here. It's been
Oh,
a
gosh.
awesome pleasure, and I always just look at anytime I have to tell this story of my life, it's just trying to hopefully pay it forward and inspire somebody that maybe need this to hear this message, or a family member or something like that, and brave enough to get the help that they need.
Yeah, I love that so much. Thank you so much for joining us, Blake. All right, we will talk to you later, Blake. Have a good one. Everybody, if you want to keep up with all these podcasts, please go on to Instagram or Facebook at Townsendtmusic. That's where I post everything that is coming up, everybody that has been on the podcast, and it's just a great way to keep up with everything, and we will see you guys next week.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this interview, visit patreon.com/TownsendTmusic. And don't forget, you can also watch the interviews on our YouTube channel at Townsendtmusic YouTube.
Okay, guys, if you're in the market to buy or sell, I have the perfect company for you. Clark & Co. Realty is located in the Benton, Bryant, Arkansas area, but they're able to serve you no matter where you're located in the state. They've streamlined the process of buying or selling a home to make it so much easier. They have a team of industry experts that make sure you have access from anything you can think of. I'm talking from local home inspectors to painters to gardeners and so much more, just to provide you with the best service possible. They're dedicated to providing the most up-to-date market data in the area. And I think the coolest part is if you go on their website, you can use their easy-to-use fast property search. You can even create a custom market report to see what's active, under contract, and sold in your neighborhood. Their team is made up of caring, knowledgeable professionals that work around the clock to help you with the process of buying and selling your home. So again, if you're in the market to buy or sell, Clark & Co. Realty is definitely the company for you. Tell them Townsend sent you. Let's be honest. I think we could all use somebody to talk to every now and then. Healing Path Counseling in Conway, Arkansas is 100% my go-to when it comes to therapy. Wendy Blackwood has more credentials than letters in the alphabet. She's won awards for her outstanding services and has a whole page of board memberships. Basically, she knows what she's doing. She works hard to help equip you with the tools needed to live your best life. She even offers a variety of services, including, but not limited to, cognitive behavioral therapy, technology-assisted counseling, relationship counseling, and EMDR. Trust me, I know therapy can be intimidating at first, but let me assure you, Wendy does her best to make you comfortable and find the best solutions and plans for you. Trust me, don't wait to make the call. Give Wendy Blackwood at Healing Path Counseling a call today. Get started on the best version of you.